Here begins the work written by John Bales, called Across the Veil, Tales from Chattanooga's Haunted Past, read by Callum Smith. Part 1. By the late 1880s, Chattanooga was more than a rail hub and a Civil War memory. It had become a gathering place for the Southern Spiritualists Association. Perched on Lookout Mountain, their octagonal pavilion hosted séances, lectures, and demonstrations that promised to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. In the shadow of battlefields still heavy with grief, spiritualism flourished as widows, veterans, and orphans sought voices lost in the war. The pavilion sat like a lantern in the dark woods of Lookout Mountain, its 8 sides glowing with lamplight, the hum of expectation carrying through the crisp autumn air. Inside, Chattanooga's most ardent believers sat in a circle, their hands joined on the polished pine table. At the far end, stiff-backed and unsmiling, sat Dr. Alastair Winscombe, Fellow of the Royal Society of London. He had crossed the Atlantic expressly to dismantle the claims of these American mediums. His notebook bulged with calculations, diagrams, and skeptical remarks. "I am here to study," he'd told them, "not to be converted." The séance began with the usual murmurs, spirit raps, a wavering trumpet in the dimness. Winscombe smirked. But then the medium's voice changed, slipping into a cadence not American at all. "Alastair, it is Thomas Winscombe, your mother's father's father's kin, lost in 1646 in the smoke of the English Civil War." The scientist's hand twitched, the year, the name, things he'd never shared. The voice spoke of a small oak grove by the River Severn, where, in the panic of Cromwell's advance, the family had buried silver plate, coins, and the family signet beneath the roots of the third tree. The air in the pavilion turned cold. Winscombe found himself leaning forward, forgetting the others, forgetting his mission. How do I find it?" he whispered. The voice chuckled softly. "The dead favor those who seek in times of war, cousin. America's grief has opened the way for mine." When the lamps flared, the voice was gone. The doctor left Chattanooga with more questions than answers, and a quiet plan to visit that grove in spring. Civil wars, it seemed, were fertile ground for the living and the dead alike. Stay tuned for Part 2.